Hello, and welcome back to the Sussex, Ontario Election Show. Once again, I'm Joe Ragusa, principal here at the firm and head of our firm's Ontario Government Relations Group. As we've been doing every week, we come to you on Fridays to talk to you about the week that was, everything that's going on with the Ontario government, Ontario politics, and most importantly, the Ontario election. So thanks for joining us on this Friday before the long weekend. We're happy today to be joined by Joseph Angolano, Vice President of Mainstreet Research. Joseph, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And those of you who have watched us before, you know we've had candidates on, we've had people from media on, we've had leadership, we had Doug Ford on, we have had Adrian Batra from The Sun, Stephen Del Duca. We've had a number of people on, and today with all of the polls that are coming out, we thought you would benefit from having a more in-depth discussion, not only about published polls, but the art of polling itself. And Joseph's been kind enough to join us at what I'm sure is a very, very busy time for you.
Absolutely.
And your firm. So Joseph, just to get us started, tell us a little bit about Mainstreet Research and your firm, how long it's been around. And
well, we've been polling we've been around since 2010, and we started releasing polls publicly around 2013, I believe, and started getting just started trying to build a reputation that way, we have offices all over Canada. We have one in Montreal, we have one in Calgary, and we're here in Toronto and in Ottawa, and we pride ourselves as being the polling firm that can accurately predict election results. We had some significant correct calls. I guess most notably, our first big correct call was the 2015 federal election. We said there was going to be a Liberal majority before anyone else said there was going to be a Liberal majority, and it turned out, as everyone knows, that's what ended up happening. So that's what we're very much focused on, measuring voter opinion and trying to track that accurately for voters, because that's important. People want to know where the parties stand in an election.
And I remember, and I'll confirm, that in fact in 2015, yours was the first firm to say the Liberals were not only winning, but would win a majority. And I remember seeing that and saying, holy geez, it kind of went out on a limb here, but you were right.
Yeah, I mean, the movement was there. I mean, after Thanksgiving weekend, their numbers kept skyrocketing up and up and up, and they finally got that ceiling, and it was clear just looking at the regional distributions of support that the Liberals are going to get a majority in 2015. So.
All right, and we're going to talk about the importance of long weekends during election periods in just a minute. So just to confirm, Mainstreet is not retained by the Ontario Liberal Party, the Ontario PC Party,
correct,
the Ontario NDP Party, so you have no bias to sway your results one way or the other.
None.
What you find is what you report.
That's right.
Okay, great. So just before we get into your most recent findings and what's going on today, I've actually had a couple of people ask me when they read or hear media reports about polling,
right?
There's certain phrases or words that are used that they don't necessarily understand. So one is IVR, one is online polling, one is live interview. I guess the live interview is self-explanatory, the most out of all of them. What does your firm use?
So we use IVR, which stands for Interactive Voice Recording, technology where we'll dial respondents at random. They pick up the phone, they hear a human voice, but it's a recording. And they ask the questions, they provide a prompt, press 1 if you're going to vote for the Liberals, press 2 if you're going to vote for PCs, et cetera, et cetera. They push their button, they push whatever button they prefer, and that's how they complete a survey. That's different, of course, from live interviews where it is a live human voice doing it, and they actually have to record what the respondent actually says. This is merely pressing a button. They're more closely related to live interviews, and IVR are similar in the sense that they both use probability sampling, random sampling of the general population. We'll have a large list of phone numbers where we will randomly select some of them, randomly dial from that random selection, and build our sample that way. So they have that similarity. They differ. Why we prefer, we use all three modes, but we use IVR for elections for a few reasons. One reason why we don't use live interviews is because we find people are a lot more honest by simply pushing a button, right? We are concerned about a shy vote, especially for an undesirable candidate like, say, Donald Trump, right? People are more willing to press 1 and tell the truth about their preferences instead of saying, well, I'm voting for Donald Trump. it's hard to vocalize that sometimes, right? It's hard to, I mean, Donald Trump had a lot of baggage, and I think a lot of voters in the United States realized that, and they didn't want to admit that they were voting for a person who had that much social undesirable traits, right? So, but that's where they differ. But both modes, live interviews and IVR, differ in one key respect from online panels. Online panels don't use probability sampling. They recruit respondents, either giving them a small compensation or whatever. Hey, sign up for our panel, and we may be entered for a draw for a gift certificate or whatever. And those survey companies that use that online panel curate those respondents that way. It's not random.
So the online panels tend to be the same people responding?
They tend to be the same people. Now they try and build a panel of several thousand, right? But it's not done randomly. These are people who opt in to want to take these surveys, right? There are some methods to muddy the waters even more. There are some firms that will go online, use Google surveys, and get sampling that way. That has its limitations too. But the most common method is that online panel where they build their frame, as it's called. They build their pool of respondents by this non-random method. Now, we don't use it for our public releases because society is very complicated. I can think of 100 different ways where everyone differs, right? So trying to do that trying to build a selection that reflects society in that way and doing it in a non-random way is very difficult. We'd rather just have a large bowl or a large sack of wheat and just get a scoop and get that. We feel it's more representative. I could go on, but this is a short.
All right, and so your polls, your publicly released polls, they tend to be fairly large sample size, like over 2,000.
Right.
And if you're like me, you get to the bottom and it says this poll will be considered accurate within plus or minus 2%, 19 out of 20 times. I think I've seen on the online polls that's usually not there.
That's right, because it's not a random sampling.
Okay.
It's recommended that they cannot ascribe a margin of error. Right, a margin of error can only be attributed to a sample if it's done randomly. Right.
Okay. So fair enough. So you're obviously in the field during this Ontario election, and we pulled out, took a look at your poll that I think you released Saturday, May the 12th.
Right.
That had the PC party at 42.3%, and it's always interesting, as I've told clients, it's kind of interesting to look at how this firm compares to that firm. I find it particularly interesting when you look at the same firm, what they're publishing today and what their previous results showed, because then you get a better idea of who's got momentum. So Mainstreet reported the PCs at 42.3, which represented a drop of 2.6% from your previous poll.
That's right.
And we do a little weekly write-up here to our clients, and I told them last Friday that I thought Andrea Horvath had a great first week. And in fact, your poll had the NDP up 7.1%, up to 28.4.
Right.
And the Liberals, you reported, were at 22.1, which represented a decrease of 6.1%.
Right.
So Liberals down 6, NDP up 7. Is this a straight trade? I was there and now I'm here?
To make it simple in a word, yes, but there's more to the story. We tweet something out showing the shifts in voter support with the undecided vote as well. The undecided vote had crept up. The PC vote went down, the Liberal vote went down, and the NDP had gone up, but not that dramatically, because they were the only party in that last week to post that gain. Their gain looked a lot bigger than it actually was. It's very rare to see voter support just move from one party to the other. It's I kind of call it like it's an avalanche. It's ice melting. Ice doesn't melt immediately. An avalanche doesn't start right. Doesn't immediately start going. So doesn't start flying down that hill immediately. Right. It starts building slowly. So what we're actually seeing is a lot of votes moving into that undecided column, and the NDP got some of it. That's a complicated answer. That said, I think it's still a very good week for Andrea Horvath. She had a big jump in support. We look at second place votes.
Second choice?
Second choices, exactly. The NDP are dominating there too. So there's a lot of room for growth for the NDP, right?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So I looked into your stuff, and I should have said that Mainstreet also had 17.2% of people undecided.
Yep.
Which is still kind of large, I think, at this point in the campaign, and we expect that to shrink as we get closer to Election Day.
It usually does, that's right.
So we're looking at people who identify the PC party as their first choice. Their second choice, the biggest number there, is the NDP. And when we look at Liberal voters and you ask them who's your second choice, the biggest number there is the NDP.
Right.
So they really are in a position, if something kind of breaks here, they're in a position to capitalize? Is that the thing?
I think so, yeah. If the Liberals lose support and the PCs lose support, it's more likely going to go to the NDP than anywhere else. That's what those numbers are telling us. That's the direction. Will it happen? We don't know. There is, I mean, we've seen the last week, especially this week, I should rather say Doug Ford has had a lot of bad headlines. We might see that again, that ice start to thaw for Doug Ford a little bit, and that's probably where that vote is going to go. Also, another X factor here is that progressive vote. If you look at our breakouts, you see the two progressive parties, the Greens, the Liberals, I'm going to say the Liberals, the Greens, and the NDP, the three progressive parties, there's far more vote share among them than the Conservatives. So if that progressive vote in Ontario starts coalescing around one party, and right now the bet is the NDP, right, today, who knows what's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, we thought we'd have Patrick Brown as leader right now, so the waters can change. Right now, the smart money is on the NDP. If that progressive vote starts coalescing around a party, then we might start talking about a minority situation for progressive Conservatives, or even a straight loss if they start dipping below 40%.
Now, I took a look at your regional breaks too. You've got the PCs leading in every region.
Yep.
Including, surprisingly, the NDP is in second place in the 905.
Yeah.
That belt around Toronto, which that might be the first time we've ever seen that happen.
That's the first time we've seen it since we've been polling, and if that were to happen, I'd hazard a guess that's the first time it's ever happened electorally in Ontario, easily within 20 years, right? At least going back to the Mike Harris days. I mean, if you want to pick a place where the Liberal campaign is dying, that said, we've never seen that ever before, where the NDP are ahead and comfortably ahead of the Liberals in the 905 region. That helps the PCs because, I mean, usually the Liberals have been the main competitors to the PCs in that region. So if there's that much vote there, that means there's going to be a lot of vote splitting, and the PCs are going to get more seats rather than expected, thanks to progressive vote splitting.
Right, because you win when you're at 40 and your two opponents are at 30 each.
Right.
First past the post.
Usually 40 is enough, but I mean, Peel region could go all Conservative, but they could be all three competitive fights, right? And Peel region is Mississauga and Brampton for those two.
So based on what you're seeing so far, and I know there's still about 3 weeks left before Election Day, but if the election continues to follow these trends that your firm is reporting, is it over for the Liberals? Do you see a path back for them? Is there a way that they can crawl back into this race?
I have to say the chances of winning this election outright are pretty small. I think a good election for them is if they can get a great election for them is getting a second. It could happen if they show a recovery in Eastern Ontario, if they can get ahead of the Conservatives in Toronto, if they got to improve in the GTA. That's no ifs, ands, buts about it. If those three things happen, then they got a chance. Then they got a chance of maybe finishing second, because there are a lot of seats there are more seats in the GTA and Toronto than anywhere else in any other region in Ontario, right? So that's their hope, maybe, to get to second, and if they do well enough, maybe there's a minority government, and then, the Liberals get to fight another day. I mean, I'm not sure about Kathleen Wynne herself, where she'll stick around after this election, but that would be a good election for the Liberals. But the chance of them winning, it's looking very narrow, I gotta say.
Fair enough. So as you referenced, this week, Doug Ford and the PCs have not had a great week. There's been some reporting of a couple of incidents, one pertaining to Highway 407 and their candidate in Brampton East who used to work there, I understand. And there's some data that's been reported as missing or stolen. And there was a report of Doug Ford attending a PC fundraiser, which in Ontario's new rules now, party leaders, candidates, MPPs, cabinet ministers, basically you can't go to your own fundraiser. And he went in April, and somebody broke the story that he had gone there. So, you know, for those of us that kind of follow this stuff all very closely, we think that that's significant, that that could have an effect on voter intent. Being a polling expert, do you expect, or can we anticipate that those sorts of things might move the needle a little bit, or is the public kind of thinking, well, that's just what politicians do, and I'm going to vote for who I'm going to vote for?
It certainly could. I mean, we often talk about, oh, that's in a campaign, oh, that's the mistake that cost fill in the blank candidate in an election. And I'm going to go back to the 2006 federal election. A lot of people will point to, oh, that's with Paul Martin's loss. Oh, that's the moment Paul Martin lost, and they're going to name 5 different things. Campaigns die by 1,000 cuts, right? The 407 thing will cost them some votes. Other issues other missteps will cost them some more votes here and there, and on and on and on it goes. You know, it's very hard to find a singular mistake like Robert Stanfield dropping a football in 1974. For those old enough or geekish enough like me to know that. One singular mistake generally doesn't end a campaign anymore, right? It's a death of 1,000 cuts. The Conservatives are doing a good job, I think, of trying to find ways of losing this election. Back in March, we had them at 50%. They're at 42. They've lost 8% already. If they keep, I mean, they're on that edge of that majority mark. 40% is usually that magic number, but they're close, right? They're very close. A few regional shifts here and there, they're going to be under 40%. So they really have to watch that. I think they really got to get a little bit more disciplined about these mistakes. Obviously, the Liberals traditionally have had a sensational war room. They will lay a lot of garbage at the feet of Conservatives to make sure they have bad headlines, make sure that Doug Ford's answering is on a defensive every day of the campaign. They've traditionally been very good at that. They're still doing a decent job at that. So that's what they're going to have to do. They're just going to have to try and get back to that message. Try to rip a page out of his brother's campaign playbook. 5 simple messages. Go back to the slogans. That's what people expect in the Fords. Keep that up.
It's tough. I mean, I think he's trying to do it, and to their credit, I think the PC War Room, when the Greenbelt video happened, and when a video about Tanya Granick-Allen got released, Ford has acted quickly.
Yes.
He looks decisive.
Yes.
It looks like, okay, that happened. We're not doing the Greenbelt. Forget it. It's done. She's a problem candidate. She's out.
Right.
This candidate in Brampton East resigned.
Yes.
And Ford said, I accepted his resignation. The Scarborough fundraiser was all about, well, he was misinformed. The person that organized it didn't tell him that's what it was, so that person is gone from our campaign. The problem this time, I find, is that these 2 incidents were reported Wednesday night.
Right.
And this morning at his media event,
Yeah.
So all day yesterday and even into today, the media just wants to talk to him about the 407 and the fundraiser.
Right.
So it could stick to him. Now, you mentioned earlier the Thanksgiving long weekend during the 2015 federal election. I would agree that long weekends seem to have it seems to be the time when you sit down with your friends, your family, chatting, barbecuing, saying, what are you going to do this election? Who are you going to vote for? Do these long weekends tend to be a time when voter intentions, if not crystallize entirely, at least start to firm up?
Yeah. Human beings are strange people. We like to agree with each other. We like to get together with our families and our friends, and we don't want to be the one to have different opinions. So as what happened in 2015, as what happened in 2006 over the Christmas and New Year break, we have the May 2-4 weekend in this election. People are going to get together and have their barbecues on their patios, in their cottages, at the dinner tables, family are going to get together and say, hey, what do you think, blah, 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 right? And I think a lot of, as you say, a lot of opinions are going to start to crystallize. 2015 was a great example. We saw this anti-Harper sentiment, and those people who were not going to vote for Harper either way were making up their mind where to go. Do we go to NDP or do we go to the Liberals? We don't know. And then all of a sudden they made that decision. Trudeau's the guy. That's who we're voting for. And the plane took off for them, and the rest is history. So that will happen. I think a lot of things will crystallize. Things may stay the same, or people say, you know what, I got my doubts with Doug Ford. Maybe you got to stick with what we know. Vote Liberal. Choose change, but I don't like this agenda. Maybe go the NDP. Again, progressive-minded people will say, you know what, we got to stop Doug Ford no matter what. I mean, we saw what his brother did, what he was like in Toronto. Got to go the NDP because this is all about stopping Doug Ford. Lots of options on the table.
So the good news is none of them, there's no correlation between having turkey and making a political decision, because no one's having turkey this weekend.
That's right.
We'll be having other things.
Well, it could be Roman candles and those snakes that they used to light up in the old days.
All right. We have a debate May 27th, which is the weekend after the long weekend, for a June 7th election. It's a little late.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree that by May 27th, most people kind of had made up their minds by that point?
I think so, but again, debates can change things. I mean, 1984, it was all about Prime Minister John Turner, and then Brian Mulroney laid the greatest knockout punch in the history of Canadian debates, right? And the rest was history. Michael Ignatieff's bid for PM died literally thanks to Jack Layton's knockout blow. They're usually, but that's rare, right? I mean, we've not seen that kind of knockout blow in an Ontario leaders debate ever, off the top of my head. They're usually battled out to draws. Everyone gets their talking points out, and that's the end of it. So, if the rest happens that way, then the debate's not going to have much of an effect.
Sure, anything could happen. It is a little late, though, I find, in the election.
It is late,
Mind you, it's not their first one. They had one on CP24.
Right.
They had one in the north. So this technically is the third debate.
That no one saw, yeah.
Yeah, but I think this will be the one that people watch more than,
Right.
than the previous two.
Right.
Okay, so shifting gears a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I saw something on the Mainstreet website the title of it was Is there a shy win, WYNNE, so the Premier's name, is there a shy win vote? So I want to show everybody an interesting graphic, if we could put that up. So this is your firm's results from a riding. I don't know which riding it is.
Right.
It wasn't disclosed on,
Right.
On the website, where the respondents were asked which party they would vote for.
Right.
And as you can see from the results here, this riding was overwhelmingly conservative.
Yep.
And there's no reference on the site to which region this is in. It's totally anonymous. The question being put, which party, and 51% are saying PC here, and 27% are saying Liberal, and 14% are saying NDP, which is, it's a good result for the PCs.
Absolutely.
Then further on in the article, you show another graphic, and maybe we can get that one up, where the question shifts to which candidate
Right.
would you vote for? And the PC numbers, although they're still ahead, you see that the Liberal number increases by 14% here, and the PC number comes down by 7, and the NDP number comes down to 11.
Right.
Nuance, different question. Which party are you going to vote for? Which candidate are you going to vote for? The Liberals have the most incumbents.
Yep.
So presumably a question like this would favor parties where the candidates are, let's say, better known.
Right.
And have been in office for a while, maybe they've been a member for 2 terms, they've helped people, they're known in their communities
Right.
for 8 years. What would we make of this? So I'll say this, I've talked to 4 Liberal incumbents in the last 2 days, and this polling, you'd swear that none of it applies to any of them.
Sure.
And, people are a little upset, but things are pretty good here. We should be okay. I think we're going to win our riding. And then
Right.
I look at provincial polling, I say, there's a disconnect here.
Right.
So can you share some insight based on the graphic that we've seen, on the article that your firm
Yeah.
wrote? What's really going on
So
out there?
we've pulled, this is a riding, we've pulled multiple ridings, right? That's a service we offer. We've pulled about half the ridings in the province. We took this as an example, obviously not naming the riding, but we see a lot of this. Incumbents matter, and it's clear that the Liberal incumbent in this case, and nearly every case, is adding a lot of support to that Liberal brand in their riding. It must be a little bit frustrating for the Liberals because they lost a lot of incumbents this election. I think they only have something on the order of 50 incumbents returning. If you look at our overall numbers, then yeah, it looks like the Liberals are headed for a disaster of an election, single digits maybe in a seat count. But if half the seats can do something like this, right, it's not going to look so bad. It's going to be about 26, 27 seats. That's what's I think that's the good news. We know that Kathleen Wynne's favorability ratings are very bad. So I think a lot of local campaigns are going to be interested in emphasizing the local candidate, their past service, what have they, things that they've done, their local popularity, because there's a big boost, right? They're a known variety. More often than not, the Conservatives are not running star candidates in ridings. I mean, I found it a little interesting. I didn't get a lot of stars running for them. Yeah, they got Rod Phillips, they got Carol Mulrooney, they got
Christine Elliott came back.
Christine Elliott came back. They got Troy Crowder in Sudbury. You're always going to do well with a hockey player. He's running against Glenn Tebow in Sudbury. But when you're up against when you don't have these great known candidates, you're going to fall. You're going to be at a disadvantage here.
So if I'm a Liberal incumbent, I almost want to run. I want to frame this election as being very local. Mm-hmm. Me against him or me against her.
Yep.
Like, I've got a record of achievement, accomplishments. This person has never done anything for you. Vote for me. And remember, too, when people go to vote in Ontario, although the party name is on the ballot, you're not going to see Wynne, Ford, or Horwath on your ballot. You're going to see Smith, Jones, and Johnson, your three local candidates.
That's right.
So incumbency, would you say, is it generally worth 5 to 7%?
The rule of thumb is 5 or 7. In that case, it's obviously a lot bigger.
That's a good incumbent.
That's a very good. Now I remember who it is. That's a very popular incumbent. So that's what they're going to want to emphasize, right? This is about saving the furniture at this point for the Liberals, at least in this next week. If they can get their support back up to 25, 26 and close to the NDP, then they can start talking about being, being that main opposition voice. But as it stands, a lot of local campaigns, especially if they have long-term incumbents, probably should be.
So if this election had happened 2 days ago, the Liberals were in big trouble.
They would be in serious trouble, absolutely.
All right. In the time that we have left, I just want to ask you about your daily tracker. So Mainstreet Research is offering a daily tracker that I'm going to let Joseph tell you more about. Tell us what you're doing, what does it cost, how people can get it, and what they receive. Yeah,
so we're doing something different. We're doing a daily tracker. We're providing subscribers a daily update of the numbers. We're rolling in an average. We're rolling in around 800 samples a day, weighing that data and providing it update at 3 p.m. for our subscribers. We're offering at a low cost of $30 for the entire writ. That's less than a cup of coffee. And they see a lot of detailed things on there. They have an interactive map where they can click on the regions and see how everyone's doing. They can see the second choices for each party. How likely supporters of each party are going to switch their vote. And you see regional breakouts and all the other good stuff that people are used to seeing from our reports. So that's just...
Where do they find it?
Okay, then go to our website, mainstreetresearch.ca. The first splash screen on the slider, just click here to subscribe, and off to the races. I mean, I think...
So one-time fee of $30.
One-time fee of $30.
And you're going to get results every day?
Yep.
Including weekends?
That's right.
And
the long weekend, too.
Oh, I'm sorry you have to work this long weekend. But speaking of working this long weekend, the poll that we talked about you released last Saturday. When's your next public poll coming out?
Today we're going to be releasing it at 5 p.m. We're in the field as we speak. We're doing a little quick update of all the regions, and we're going to run back, crunch numbers, and just go on our website and or check our Twitter feed, and we'll be releasing new results.
Well, I'll look for it because I know I'll still be here at 5 o'clock on Friday before a long weekend because I have no life. Joseph, thank you. Thanks very much for taking time to
Absolutely,
join with us today. Again, mainstreetresearch.ca. If you want to buy the daily tracker, it's $30. It's a good deal. And you pay it once, and you're going to get updates right up until, I guess, June the 6th.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Okay, thanks for coming out. We're going to let Joseph go, and when we come back, we're just going to talk a little bit about the week that was and what to look for next week. So stay with us.
For 20 years, Sussex Strategy Group has helped companies and organizations navigate government and bring about successful policy change. Our team of experts understand that it takes more than meetings and phone calls to turn heads and change opinion. It takes insight, strategy, and deep domain knowledge to get things done. In a world that's constantly changing, one thing stays the same. Sussex Strategy Group helps you win. Visit sussex-strategy.com right now and let us help you today. Sussex Strategy Group, 20 years of getting you results.
Looking to take your digital advocacy to the next level? Get in touch with our team at Sussex Adrenaline. Sussex Adrenaline is Canada's most awarded digital public affairs agency. Using our proprietary advocacy platform, Vox, supporters of our clients' campaigns have sent over 1 million letters to their local politicians advocating for change. Let us help you design your next advocacy campaign and get the results you need to win. Sussex Adrenaline, digital that actually gets you results.
Welcome back. Again, that was Joseph Angolano from Mainstreet Research. I found it interesting and informative to learn a little bit more about polling and how it works and what's really going on out there. Just want to talk a little bit about the week that was and what we're looking for in the days ahead. Obviously, as we discussed, it wasn't a great week for Doug Ford. He's had to deal with this issue of the 407, his candidate in Brampton East having to resign. The fact that he attended a fundraiser that raised money for the PC party, which is not allowed in the new rules. You know, to the credit of the PC War Room, they acted quickly and decisively. These stories broke Wednesday night, however, and this morning, Friday morning, as he's trying to get his message out, the reporters just wanted to ask him about those two incidents. So it wasn't a great week, and this is the type of media scrutiny that maybe Mr. Ford had not been accustomed to in his municipal political career, and the fact that the other two parties have war rooms that are looking for stuff and making sure that that stuff gets out there. Other polls came out in the last week, as well as Mainstreet. Most of them have the PCs at about 40% and the NDP at around 30%. The Liberals now in the low 20s. Unfortunately for them, while Horwath and Wynne might have celebrated the fact that Doug Ford had his difficulties, it also ate up a lot of the airtime this week, and as a result, we didn't see as much of the other two party leaders as they may have liked. Some of you are aware of these aggregator poll tracker websites that take the publicly issued polls and translate them into seat projections. As Joseph said, had the election been the other day, the Liberals would have been in big trouble. Some of these aggregator sites have them down into single digits in terms of number of seats that they are likely to win. But 3 weeks is a long time in politics, and the election, the actual voting day, doesn't happen until 3 weeks from yesterday. So we'll see how it goes. They did announce the leaders' debate. The next televised debate will be on May 27th. As we talked about with Joseph, we think that people will start to really get their heads around the election and formulate their opinion during the long weekend. So we are going to pay much closer attention to the publicly released polls that come out after the long weekend, which is not to say that those until now are not significant. They are, but I think the ones after the long weekend will be a little more indicative. We are told we can expect a Liberal platform next week. Of course, most of their program was in their budget, which was tabled March 28th. But there will be a Liberal platform coming forward that we are looking forward to seeing. The PC Party, their approach has been to kind of announce a plank a day, but they do tell us that there will be a formal platform that they will release, and it will be costed before the end of the campaign. For yourselves, look, there's still time in this election to get your message out. If you've noticed, there hasn't been really one issue that's caught fire in this election. It hasn't become the healthcare election. It hasn't become the education election. So I know that our clients, some of them are working on getting their messages out and ensuring that their issues are debated and highlighted during this election period. There is still time to do that. A little bit of a plug, we have the capabilities to help you do that here. But certainly don't think that with June 7th pending and getting closer that the time is up, because I think there is a bit of a vacuum here on the issue side, and there is time to get your message out. We're going to look for the party's advertising to change after the long weekend. I think that you're going to start to see them more frequently, and I think that there will be an additional intensity to those ads. So keep an eye out for those as well. On any of this stuff, be it what the parties are doing, the polling data, anything at all to do with the Ontario election, please feel free to get in touch with your Sussex consultant here, who will be happy to talk to you about all of these things. If you have questions and aren't sure, please let us hear from you. And similarly, if you have feedback about topics or guests that you would like us to feature on this webcast, we're open to suggestions, and we want to hear your feedback. So, having said all of that, have a great long weekend, and we will see you again next Friday. Take care.